Welcome back to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, we're all still mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, and in the aftermath, I reached out to a handful of people who I knew were close to him, worked with him over the years. We talked to Bill Federer, and we also have today Seth Gruber. He was a friend of Charlie's. They worked together on a lot of different projects. He's been on the program before. He is a warrior, maybe the nation's preeminent warrior on behalf of the unborn. He's one of the few who's just willing to tell it like it is. He's actually the son of a pregnancy resource center director, so he was helping save unborn children from abortion before he was even born. He's been a vocal defender of preborn babies ever since. He is the founder of the White Rose Resistance, an incredible national organization working to stop abortion in this country. He just released earlier this year, I believe, or maybe it was last year, we had him on the program to discuss it, the 1916 Project, which if you haven't seen that yet, it is essential that you go watch this. It's an incredible film. I can't say enough good things about it. It's the real story of Margaret Sanger and the people who brought abortion to our country and who they really were. They were racist, they were eugenicists, they were vile revolutionaries in every sense. Seth, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. I want to start with Charlie. I know it's still fresh, but your thoughts on all that happened and all that is happening.
Yeah, I think we've crossed a Rubicon, and I don't think anything will ever quite be the same again, actually, Alex, in our political and cultural warfare for our generation and this time that we live now. I spoke at a vigil in Kansas City last night, and one of the things I tried to tell the mourners there, Alex, was why Charlie meant so much to them and why people feel like they really got struck in the heart. Why the loss of Charlie felt so personal to so many people who never even met him. And I think that's something we have to answer, Alex, because it's objectively, it's an international phenomenon. I mean, you'd have to have your head pretty far up your own rectum at this point to deny that hundreds of thousands of people have a really intense emotion around this. And listen, people get gunned down around the country all the time, but gang violence or drug wars is a lot different than political assassinations and martyrdom. Mm-hmm. And that's because play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you're dealing in drugs and being an idiot, stupid stuff happens. But when you say what millions of Americans believe as their fundamental a priori assumptions about human nature, let's be honest, Alex, Charlie was a political individual, but he was also one of the most high-profile Christians in the country.
Amen.
And while he would get nuanced in his show about the Steele dossier and Hunter Biden's crack up his anus and Ukrainian political malfeasance, let's be honest, the bulk of what Charlie spent his time talking about, defending when he would open his mouth on a platform or on a college campus, was marriage. Be a man. Step up, provide. Don't kill babies in the name of radical feminism. Maybe let's not sexually mutilate the next generation. Let's entirely rout the ideology of transgenderism out of the public square. It's okay to love your country and have borders. That's okay. Most of what he spent his time defending, and therefore what he was hated for the most by the radical left, were the same beliefs that the vast majority of Americans have. And so when you assassinate and murder someone because you don't like what they think and you don't like what they're saying, that's different. And Charlie so eloquently gave language to and shape and form to ideas that most Americans would have a hard time defending when under pressure. So he became the voice of a generation and the hope of the boomers who were thank God for someone. I could speak about this for a lot longer, Alex, but that's sort of the beginning of an answer as to why it was so different and why so many people feel such a sense of individual personal loss. Nothing will be the same after this. Steve Deace, my friend, just gave, I think, the best talk or commentary in this last week. I think he did it in Washington, D.C. Monday night, September 15th. The Blaze YouTube account put it up. Everyone should go watch it. It's the best response of what time is it and what does all of this mean. Listen, if they'll murder Charlie for believing what you believe and then they'll celebrate it on Blue Sky and on X, Alex, and watch this, what were they all saying? These demoniac, tranny, gender-bending, Ishtar-worshipping goddesses of Satan. What were they all saying, Alex? They were all saying we. Did you catch that? Yeah. We got him, they said, Alex. They said, we killed Charlie. We took him out. What does that tell you, listener? Be very honest with yourself right now. Stop fooling yourself into thinking that we have some sort of like appearance of peace in America where the trannies who want to actually chop your children's genitals off by convincing them that they're the other gender. Stop deluding yourself that you're going to be able to live at peace with these people in our country. I think there's been a spiritual, philosophical civil war happening in this country, Alex, for decades. And now what used to be invisible is very visible in the eyes of very many people in this country. The murder, martyrdom, and assassination of Charlie Kirk pulled the scales off of the eyes of hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, wake up. Thank you. Welcome to the battle that Charlie was on the front lines of for decades as people ruthlessly attacked him. Yeah, he's a MAGA cult. He's a pub. No, he was holding back a tide of darkness that would happily wipe out you and your family for holding the same beliefs. It's time that you step up and honor him by fighting as hard for the babies, the family, the marriage, the social fabric in this country before it's too late. Those are my initial thoughts.
Seth, it's so interesting that you say that. We did not coordinate this in advance. We only talked briefly before starting this segment. But the last time I had a real talk with Charlie was right here on this program. And my first question to him was asking him to describe the nature of the threat that we face. And he didn't even hesitate. He said, and I'm quoting word for word, "This is demonic at its core." He said that the unclean spirits are manifesting as woke. And I think for most people, that's just like, oh, there goes that goofy Bible talk again. And yet, it's real. It's real. And you're one of the few when it comes to the abortion issue. This is one of the reasons why I so appreciate your ministry on this front. You're one of the few who's been talking about the fact that this is actually demonic. These killings, and not every girl going in for an abortion understands this, but a lot of people involved in this do. These are actual sacrifices to the quote-unquote gods with a little g that the Old Testament speaks about so frequently, to the powers and principalities that Paul talks about. And so that brings me to the obvious question then, Seth, as we see this kind of spiritual awakening, as we see the scales dropping from a lot of people's eyes, how do you respond to a spiritual enemy? Obviously, firearms aren't going to do much. How do you deal with this?
Yeah, wow, thank you, Alex. That's powerful hearing Charlie's words on your program. I mean, yes, it is important that we recognize that all human conflict is ultimately theological. At the end of the day, when your political opponents believe that if you believe in a all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful creator, then you're just a weirdo who believes in a sky daddy playing John Lennon songs while sitting on a cloud. And they believe that they are their own gods. I mean, Margaret Sanger, her first magazine, The Mast, said no gods, no masters.
Right.
So like sometimes when people like you and me, Alex, we speak publicly, and people who aren't accustomed to the culture war, they're so hyperbolic, that Alex Newman's so hyperbolic. He's just trying to rile people up into a frenzy to give to his causes. The world's not really like that. What a weirdo that Alex is. until you're in the culture war, then you realize how true some of the things me and Alex are saying. We're not being hyperbolic. Okay, this is what these people have openly said for years. I mean, you go back and read Voltaire if you'd like. Okay, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I mean, they were brutally, actually not just arrogant, but like nasty in their attacks towards those people who believed in a God. I mean, they thought that those people were just like loony idiots to be despised and attacked. And nothing's changed today, guys. Nothing's changed. In fact, the battle now could turn much bloodier than the French Revolution if people don't wake up and realize what we're up against. And so firstly, we need to learn how to pray. We need to pray. But my problem with so much of evangelicalism in particular, Alex, and this leads into Charlie as well, is that they only believe in praying against wickedness and evil. They only believe praying for righteousness. They don't believe in actively fighting against evil or actively fighting for righteousness. I think of Gideon in Judges 6, who is up in a mountain cave or a wine press because they have Bernie Sanders' democratic socialism. And so the Midianites are taking all of the wheat that the Israelites make, and so you make, we take, but it's democratic socialism, which I've been told is much better. I think it's like icing on a turd or something like that. And so, so this is AOC's paradise. And then the angel of the Lord comes to Gideon in Judges 6, and he says, walk out of this cave and you go tear down those Baal statues and you chop up those Asherah poles. Well, it's kind of interesting, actually, because Baal, so baby sacrifice, Alex, and then Ishtar or Asherah, the Asherah poles, sex goddess. So gender bending, weird orgies kind of is how they would worship her. So you have the sex cult, okay, and then you have the child sacrifice cult. Yes, those two sins have been linked since time immemorial. But guess what? God didn't tell Gideon, I want you to go get on your knees in front of the baby sacrifice and the orgy cult, and I want you to pray that it would just go away. I'm sorry, but like we do enough praying in the American church and very, very little Christian resistance. And that's so much of who Charlie was and what he did. So Gideon rips down the idols, very iconoclastic, and the people wake up in the morning, Alex, and guess what? They're pissed. And they said, you took down our baby-killing orgy statues and idols, and you're a meanie. And they knew that Gideon did it immediately. If you read, it's kind of interesting. Like, why is it that they immediately said Gideon did this? Probably because he was one of the few guys with testicles and testicular fortitude that had the courage to actually do that. And so guess what they do? They call Gideon's father into the public square, and they said, your son Gideon did this. We're going to murder him. So listen, the same people who celebrate murdering babies, I guess, will just as quickly murder those who speak up for and protect babies. And Charlie was a very eloquent defender of children and a very powerful voice, not just for the unborn, but for children's rights in America, who are being the same target of the same sort of tranny sex mob and cult that we see throughout millennia. So what do we need to do? How do we need to deal with spiritual principalities? Yes, we need to pray, but you need to understand that Satan was very clever to convince Christians that politics has nothing to do with their Christianity. My friend Elisa Childers just said this so beautifully. She said, if I were Satan, I would convince Christians that their faith has nothing to do with politics, and then I would sneak in through the front door with politics.
Right.
And obviously, if you guys listen to Alex Newman, which, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, you need to be as smart as Alex. Like, you understand the Christian foundational premises of this republic. I mean, there were multiple states in this country, colonies, where you couldn't even appear on the ballot or run for public office if you weren't a member of a local Protestant church. I mean, like, so when they're all like, Christian nationalism is the great threat to our republic. Shut up. Christian nationalism built this country, you idiots, right, and provided you the liberty and freedoms to say the trash that you want to say on Blue Sky in the first place. And so until we get back and understand that the Christianity of our founders, who acknowledged the lordship and kingship and authority of King Jesus, until we understand that those individuals saw no bifurcation between their faith and the public square. between their faith and laws. This Constitution was made for a certain people, okay? We didn't just make it because it sounded like good ideas. It was a reflection of the ideas that we already believed and were living off of in a country that used to look a lot more beautiful, in an America that used to look a lot more spiritual and moral. And until we get back in touch with that and celebrate and learn the stories of those heroes of the faith, we're not going to be riding this ship anytime soon. And so my next film, Alex, The Last Stand, is that we're working on right now, is a history of Christian resistance against all of the same evils that we're facing today, and reminding the church, celebrating who those heroes were, starting from the first century and moving forward, who held the tide against baby killing, sexualizing children, breaking up marriages, sacrificing infants, the state trying to raise your kid for you, all the same things we're facing today. And those heroes laid the foundation for renewal and reformation in our day. I mean, we need to remember who we are. This is why the psalmist says, righteousness cannot be done in a land of forgetfulness. It's why the Bible says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Well, of course, the answer is we rebuild the foundations. But most Christians in America, Alex, they don't even know how that foundation was originally built. Charlie did. And he was one of the most beautiful defenders of the foundations of this republic, which were fundamentally Christian. We need to remember who we are. If we're going to honor Charlie's legacy, hold back the tides of darkness, and give God a reason to show America mercy.
Yeah, beautifully stated. I couldn't agree more. And, I got a lot of emails even just over the last few days from people, Christians don't get involved in politics. And I just think, man, you must not have heard of Moses or Elijah or Daniel or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It just goes on and on. I can't fathom it. And the same thought came into my mind that you just articulated. I was debating this guy who was haranguing me on Twitter about Christianity and politics. And I thought, man, like, this is something Satan would say. Like, Christians should get out of the public square and let the God haters take over everything. Like, what could go wrong? Right? Yeah. It's frankly incredible.
Brilliantly said, yeah.
Seth, we're seeing something really interesting. Even here in my little beach town, we've had a lot of people coming together from across the political spectrum and singing Amazing Grace. Our local, newspaper is behaving nicely to Christians and conservatives. Suddenly, last place I lived before coming back to America was Stockholm, Sweden, one of the most godless places in the world. We just got some videos from Stockholm where people are coming together and singing hymns in honor of Charlie Kirk. Something seems to be happening, at least from my perspective. Do you see this? Do you think we may be seeing some hints of a revival, of an awakening? And what do we do to encourage that and prevent those who would like to stop it from succeeding?
Alexander Pope said, all nature is but art unknown to thee, all chance, direction, which thou canst not see. And there's clearly something going on in the heavenlies in the last 7 days, Alex. It's painful to have seen how many people routinely attacked Charlie with the authority of their pulpit. How many pastors who wanted nothing to do with even supporting or honoring a man like Charlie. All the pastors who refused to even say his name this last Sunday, to even acknowledge that a Christian was martyred and assassinated for holding the same views that probably most of your congregation holds as well. Yep. And Charlie was routinely attacked. I know what that's like, but he was attacked on a way larger scale. And it was always, Charlie's just a MAGA cult, right? He's just MAGA, right? He prostituted his faith to a political ideology. He cared more about honoring Trump than honoring Jesus. Like all these stupid things that were always said about him. And that's not new, right, for Christians who step into the public arena, into the political fight. Because we somehow, thanks to, I don't know, maybe the fundamentalist modernist split of the early 20th century, certainly thanks to people like, Rick Warren and Tim Keller. I'm sorry. We just need to say this. Like, Tim Keller probably shifted the Overton window further left in American evangelicalism than any other person that I know of. To make it, spiritually and morally acceptable for Christians to opt out of the political fight, or even to be registered Democrats, as Tim Keller was until his death in the state of New York, and voting for the trans the kids, kill the babies mob, because, they thought, well, the Democrat Party does better on loving the poor, or whatever. There's been lots of people who have been attacked by Christians living in this cloud of evangelical political bifurcation. We just do Jesus at our church because Jesus is neither left nor right. And we have lots of Democrats in our churches and lots of Republicans in our churches, and they all feel that their party shows different extensions of justice that are representative of the kingdom of God, or whatever freaking like Matt Chandler said to Lecrae last year on his show. One of the most asinine statements I've ever heard. Alex, what did he say? That's right. Still stay away from Matt Chandler. What did he say? He said, the left wants the kingdom, but not the king. And the right wants the king, but not the kingdom.
Oh.
Wow. Now let me take another hit of my Hunter Biden blunt. Like, what the hell does that even mean, Alex? Like, and Matt Chandler says that, and Lecrae goes, that's good. That'll preach. What the heck does that? Okay, I didn't know, Alex, that the right wants the king but not the kingdom. So conservatives don't want the kingdom, but the left wants the kingdom but not the king. I didn't realize that chopping the penises off of 13-year-olds was the kingdom of God. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I didn't know slaughtering infants who survived botched abortions on the medical table was the kingdom of God. That sounds like the kingdom of Herod, something that Jesus was very familiar with as an infant. What kind of asinine statement is that? And that's from Matt Chandler, who's still, I think, a predominant presence in the Acts 29 network. Okay, that's just an example, Alex. Obviously, I'm like very angry at how my murdered friend is being treated. But like, that's a representation of a dominant mindset in evangelicalism, that this is the kingdom, this is Jesus stuff we do, but politics has nothing to do with that. In fact, you're actually gonna shove people away from Christ if you get political. And so what did Charlie do, Alex? He literally at 18 years old, he founds Turning Point USA. He decides to ignore all of the MDiv, theological PhD wisdom of Rick Warren, of Tim Keller, of David French and David Platt and Matt Chandler and Russell Moore and Ed Stetzer and Christianity Today and the Gospel Coalition. He did the absolute opposite, Alex, of everything that we were told by our evangelical betters who are really smart and are going to help disciple us. And what was the result of him ignoring all of our institutional, managerial, evangelical class? What was the result of that?
Millions of young people
His life and death is drawing hundreds of thousands and millions of people to Jesus, because somehow Jesus used this happy warrior. Charlie was a happy warrior, Alex. Everyone saw this. Anytime some wild, Joseph multi-technicolored coat of hair weirdo would come up to ask him a question and be nasty, he would return with smiles. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to see the clips from when Charlie was 22 for the people who get mad about that. I was an absolute ass to people at 22 when I was debating abortion as well. For the last 6 years, Charlie was this happy, beautiful warrior to everyone he spoke to who hated his guts. And he unapologetically weaved the gospel into everything. There was never an answer on or issue or debate or policy debate where Charlie didn't bring it back to the gospel or to a Christian worldview. He was like Bill Federer, Tim Barton, David Barton, all pushed into one at 31 years old. Yeah. And with his death came a level of clarity that just opened people's eyes in a way that they wouldn't have been opened if it wasn't for his assassination and martyrdom. I don't know what the king is up to, Alex, but Jesus is doing something powerful, beautiful, and unique through this martyr, through our friend who was murdered. There was something about who he was, what he represented, how he spoke, and how he carried himself that now atheists, libs, leftists, apolitical, I don't do politics Christians are weeping over someone that they never even met. We posted a reel on the White Rose Instagram channel on our story, Alex, of just like snapshots of hundreds and hundreds of comments. I've never gone to church before, but I'm going Sunday. I've never opened a Bible before, but I just bought one because of Charlie. Tens of thousands of people. Why? I don't know. All nature is but art unknown to thee. All chance, direction, which thou canst not see. I can't see right now every way in which our king is directing all of this, Alex. But he is directing it. And there is a great cloud of witnesses. And Charlie is looking down from that great cloud of witnesses. And I think he's smiling more than he ever has before. And I think he's thanking Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for using this to bring people to yourself. 54,000 requests for new Turning Point chapters in the last 6 days. They only had 900, I think. I think they were on 900 campuses. I only have 5,000 donors. 54,000 new requests for Turning Point chapters? What in the world is going on? The Lion of the tribe of Judah, Aslan, is on the move. And if you've read Narnia, you know that when people hear Aslan's arrived, there's only two different responses. Either you start to piss in your pants and get really scared, or you feel a warmth fill your whole body and you get really excited because you've always wanted to join Aslan on the field of battle. This is a call to action, and it's an invitation to try to fill. I feel called to try to fill one half of one of Charlie's shoes. Because let's be honest, no one can replace Charlie. Everyone's asking, who's going to replace Charlie? Alex, no one can replace Charlie. Okay, like I have maybe some of the like debate and apologetics or speaking. Maybe you've got some of the history and education. Charlie had the history, the theology, the apologetics, the education, the speaking, the debate, the quick on his feet, the organizing, the political and moral philosophy, and the ground game and the fundraising. Nobody gets all of those in one body. You only get someone like Charlie maybe once every 80, once every 100 years, okay? Yeah. But I believe that this is going to create 200,000 new little Charlies all around America and around the West. What is going on in this country? The Lion of the tribe of Judah is on the move. We need to honor Charlie. And for the pastors who couldn't even bring themselves to say his name on Sunday, when their entire congregation is feeling broken, maybe scared, maybe hopeless, maybe confused, your refusal, pastor, to shepherd your people, because saying the name of the martyr that your people want to hear you talk about might be perceived as political, and you're afraid to lose your 501c3 status, like Lot, you're the only righteous person in Sodom, and you still want to be invited to all the nice sodomite parties. You still want to rub shoulders with the political elites. You still want people to like your form of Christianity. You're a coward. You need to step down and go be a plumber or learn how to code. But don't pretend that you're a shepherd if you're not even willing to shepherd the people in your pews who just feel really confused and scared because a 31-year-old with 2 kids was murdered for believing all the same things that they believe. If that was you this last Sunday, pastor, you need to go find another job. And don't call yourself a pastor. And how dare you attack a man who had more balls, courage than you ever had in one of your testicles. Okay, go find where you buried them. I'll raise the funds to help you reattach them. But until then, don't pretend to be a pastor. Don't pretend to be a shepherd. Spurgeon said, bold-hearted men are always called mean-spirited by cowards. Those who attacked Charlie the most were the ones least likely to ever stand up in the public square and defend the things that Charlie defended so well by bringing them back to a biblical worldview. Yeah. So yeah, I miss Charlie, and I think it's just a reminder that his life and death and his work was an indictment on the entire evangelical. I guess I want to say this, Alex, shame on us.
Yeah.
Shame on us in the American church that it took the martyrdom and assassination of a 31-year-old to bring about more interest in spiritual and eternal things than most local pastors could do in their communities. What kind of gospel have we really been preaching?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Seth. Thank you for sharing that. I know we're out of time. I know you've got a lot to do. Tell us, please, how people can watch your movies. I haven't seen the second one that's about to be released, but I can tell you, folks, the 1916 Project, we watched it at our church. Not only do you need to see it, your church needs to see it, the people in your community need to see it, even the pro-abortion people need to see it. But, Seth, how do people watch that? How do people get involved with The White Rose? And how do people watch your upcoming movie? When is that going to be out?
Oh, well, thanks, Alex. I didn't know you were gonna ask that. I just wanted to honor Charlie today, and I don't want it to sound like that I'm trying to.
No, but Charlie believed in your ministry, Seth. What you were doing is part of what Charlie was doing. So please, he would have wanted people to watch this movie. I know he was going to be in it. So please share with people how they can see that.
Yeah, I'm finishing fundraising for it, and it should come out in June at our Last Stand Festival 2026. We're expecting around 3,000 people there next June. Charlie was supposed to be the keynote speaker, so we're going to be dedicating the film to him. But the film is called The Last Stand. It's the same name as my festival. That will be June 2026 in Southern California for both the festival and the premiere, the world premiere of the film. It's a history of Christian resistance. And, we've just forgotten who we are in the American church. We've forgotten that pushing back darkness, establishing righteousness, and fighting for the least of these, even in the political square, was not a political thing. It was a Christian thing. That's what all Christians did. 1900 years of church history slaps the last 100 years of evangelicalism in the face.
Yep.
But like Aslan in the silver chair, who tells Jill Pole, listen, you're going to go down into Narnia, and I need you to find the prince and break the spell and free the land. But you need to remember the signs. Remember the signs I'm going to give you. Because if you don't repeat them to yourself, you're going to forget them. And if you forget them, you're going to screw up the mission. So remember the signs. We have forgotten the signs of the times because we've forgotten who we are and where we came from. Chesterton said that the disadvantage of men not knowing the past is that they do not know the present. You see, history is a hill or high point of vantage from which alone a man sees the town in which he's living and the age in which he lives. History is a hill or high point of vantage from which you begin to understand the day that you live in today. We're going to tell those stories and remind the church the beautiful legacy and heritage that we've inherited of Christian resistance before it's too late. I don't think anything's been done like this in Schaeffer's How Should We Then Live in the 70s. So it'll feature my mentor, Dr. George Grant, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Allie Beth Stuckey, probably David Barton, Stephen Mansfield, Calvin Robinson. It'll be quite a powerful film. So that's our next big one. It'll be my next book as well. And then we're going to be honoring Charlie at our gala on October 11th for people who want to mourn and fellowship with believers who miss him and celebrate his life. So if you go to thewhiterose.life, thewhiterose.life, people can learn about the White Rose Resistance. They can get tickets to the gala in Orange County, October 11th, and honor Charlie with us.
Excellent. Seth, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for your very, very powerful words, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
You too.
All right. Thank you, folks. Stay with us. We'll be back.